Good evening. Hail and hello, everybody. Thank you for coming on along this random Tuesday night live stream. Hope you're all doing well. Hello to what was that? My name's taken. Scale from or Skull from the USA, Virginia. Yeah, my name's taken. Apparently it is, and you're in Virginia. So thank you for being here, and thank you to Voodoo Viking. Hello from Louisiana. Yes, hail and hello to you, sir, ma'am, them, they, their, whoever's. You're here. We're here. We're just, doing the damn thing. It's in the middle of the week, sort of, almost in a way. And we're just out here scooting along, boogieing, right? Boot scooting, boogieing. Hello, Oscar Garcia Cervantes. Says Jesse. Hermano Ajes. Yes. Hello to you, my friend and brother from another mother in Appalachia regions of the world. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening and watching. Voodoo Vikings confirming their preferred, pronoun as he. So we'll go with that. Yes, but thank you to all the he, she's, theys, and thems out here in the internets and in the interwebs as we are out here rocking along on a Tuesday night, at least here in the United States. It might be Wednesday morning for those in the nether regions across the globe and across the space, But it's a random Tuesday night live stream. Just thought I'd jump on here and say hello to everybody. Welcome everybody into a live stream sort of thing where you can ask me anything. You can, if you have things on your mind. I'm happy to field some questions and answer them in the best way possible that I possibly can. I am not an authority on many things. I'll just answer in the best way possible that I can on the thing that you ask. So if you are here tuning in live for the first time on this channel, I do just want to remind everybody that most of my content, most of my video content, at least my long form content, is published on Patreon in the form of the Random Heathen Ramblings podcast. And if you want to get in on the action with that, you can join my Patreon for as low as $1 a month. It gets you access to the video versions of my content, like the long form content. I have podcasts that get released every week, and I share clips and segments of the show here on Facebook and YouTube. So if you're interested in seeing more of the long form content, you can do so by becoming a patron on Patreon. It's just $1. And the other neat thing is that you don't have to be locked into a repetitive thing, right? So if you pledge your $1 and you watch a bunch of episodes and you've gotten out of it everything that you want to get out of it, you are under no obligation to renew your $1 a month pledge. Okay, so it's patreon.com/MidgardMusings. If you go to my Linktree link that's linked in this video, it kind of takes you to everything of where I am on all social media platforms, including Patreon. So it's kind of the one-stop shop, to take you there. And again, you're under no obligation to stay. You can come and go as you please. But I do just want to share with everybody that is tuning into the live stream today. Hello, Dragon Dancer on YouTube. Thank you for tuning in and watching. We are just doing a random live chat, as the description of the video suggests. We are just out here randomly chatting and fielding your questions to the best of my capabilities. Voodoo Viking down in Louisiana has 5 gallons of Quick Mead, which is done today. Yay! And have got 20 plus gallons still going. That is a huge undertaking. Congratulations, Voodoo Viking, on your brewing of mead. What kind of mead do you have going, my man? Is it just a traditional honey mead, or do you have it, you know, flavored with anything else? You know, fruits, seasonings, any of that sort of thing. It's popular, guys and gals. You know, mead making is a very popular thing. It's relatively easy if you want to get into it. You can get the kits, you know, to make a batch of mead relatively easy. If you want to get into the nitty gritty of the flavorings of it, you know, the back sweetening, you know, adding fruits and all that sort of thing. That's out there, you know, you can do that. But by and large, you know, making mead, brewing mead is a very easy process. It doesn't take much. It can be done. My Name's Taken says on YouTube that I'm about to start my first batch of traditional honey mead. Nice. Are you using local mead? My Name's Taken. Are you getting honey from your local area, or are you just getting what's available to you in you know, the shops, the stores, you know, whether it be Walmart, Kroger, like whatever grocery is near to you? Just interested to hear what other mead makers are doing out here. Voodoo Viking is brewing just a traditional mead. They raise their own bees. Very nice. You know, and each year's batch is completely different, but I will be back sweetening with whatever. You know, the bees do have an option, you know, of things to feed off of and pollinate with. So I would have to say that the mead each year of your brewing is going to be different based on what the bees of, you know, in that year, or, you know, are going to be feeding off of and pollinating with. So that's cool. And Dragon Dancer says, just finished a lilac mead. I guess that's lilac mead a few weeks ago, and starting some blackberry mead as soon as they're ripe. How was the lilac mead? Which is what I'm assuming you're talking about. Lilac mead, Dragon Dancer. That sounds delicious. I mean, lilac is a prolific flowering, you know, bush tree thing in much of the southern and southeastern and even northeastern regions of the United States. So I think that it would be a very floral, very blooming, like sounds very nice. Anxious to hear what you have to say about that. Local store honey, very nice. Always good to support local, right? And always good to you know, give back to the community in whatever way that you can. So if you have local beekeepers, local stores that produce or that, you know, sell the honey from your region, definitely good to support that business there. Yes, definitely making a hot pepper mead though. Absolutely, dude. I've had a habanero mango mead, which was really nice, not spicy at all. Just had a little tinge, a little taste, a little, you know, inflection, a spice with the habaneros that were infused into the mead during the like the back end sweetening sort of thing. Yeah. Tastes as good as it smells. Absolutely. You know, that's a good thing. You know, if your product, you know, a lot of folks, I think, and a lot of, you know, when you get into like crafting consumable resources, right? Like the aroma, the smell that you get off of it can be the indicator of how good it is. But then you go and taste it afterwards, and you're like, oh man, it didn't smell as good as it, or it didn't taste as good as it smells. So to say that it tastes like it smells is awesome. So good for you, Dragon Dancer. Oscar Garcia Cervantes is asking, what is my morning ritual that I do every day? Me personally, so it kind of depends and varies, because I kind of work, like my morning ritual varies depending on what my obligations are for the day. I maintain and I uphold a somewhat administrative, you know, what we might call banking hours type of job. You know, so I get up at a certain point of the day, I do my work, and then I end my day. But like my morning ritual is, you know, I get up, I wash my face, I make my coffee, and I enjoy my coffee. I like a good strong cup of coffee to start my day off with, you know, before I have to get into thinking or doing anything cognitive with my mind, with my brain. Um, Consumption of coffee is a very active part of my morning ritual, my morning daily ritual. And then Oscar is also asking, what is my favorite Mexican dish? Oh man, I am a sucker. Like I am a downright like if you throw some birria tacos at me, you know, like it's game over. Birria tacos, lengua, tacos de lengua, you know, with the beef tongue is another one. But like that marinated uh, beef with like the all the peppers and the onions and everything that birria is made with, like that is 100%. Like I have a soft spot for birria tacos. Queso birria tacos are like my soft spot. I will definitely get down on some you know, carnitas, the tacos de lengua, you know, like basically if you throw meat in a tortilla, you got me sold. All right. Uh, Voodoo Viking says lemongrass habanero is awesome, but I'm doing some serrano and jalapeno this time because I'm growing them. Oh, you're growing serranos and jalapenos, man. That's gonna be a vibrant, very vibrant, spicy sort of meat, right? Like the jalapenos and serranos, peppers. They tend to really, um, you know. Their spice is like on the front end, you know. Some of like habaneros and above, like their spice tends to be on like the back end. So like after you consume it, it's spicy. You get like back of the mouth, back of the tongue, the throat thing. But your serranos and your jalapenos, right? They tend to really get your attention right up front. So I think the lemon, the citrus lemongrass, right? The vibrancy of that plant is going to complement. Uh, Lemongrass makes meat buttery. Ooh, ooh. You've tickled me. You've tickled me interested there, Voodoo Viking. Yeah. Um, Grew up in San Antonio. Hit me up for authentic Mexican recipes. Lengua rules, and so does tripas. Yes, stomach. For those of you that don't know what tripas is, it's like the stomach or the stomach lining, right? And organ meat, like that's a weird, like Oscar's laughing a little bit, but like organ meat for the gringas or for the gringos, right? For those of us Caucasian folks, like it can turn some people off. Like they're not typically into the organ meat, especially when we're talking like stomach or intestines or anything like that. But I'm telling you, it is so good. It's so good. Get over the name of it. Like put the name out of your mind when you're thinking about trying these things. Right. So just try to like separate a little bit from it being stomach or tongue or anything like that. Like if you just look at it as meat and get out of your headspace a little bit, you're gonna enjoy some really good stuff. Hello there, Tennessee Hendricks, another Tennessean with the four-leaf clover over here on YouTube. Haven't had any real mead in Tennessee. What do you classify as real mead? Because there are meaderies in Tennessee here that I know of. We've got we've got a meadery in Nashville. There's a meadery in Huntsville, Alabama, the Ravenwood Meadery. There's also, you know, and while they may not be local to Tennessee, there's the Moonjoy Meadery in Lenoir, North Carolina, which can ship. But Honeytree Meadery, based out of Nashville, Nashville, Tennessee. So Tennessee Hendrix, I'm not sure where you're located out of, but there are options. Barbacoa, yes. You kidding me? The barbecue? Come on now. Hit me up with that barbecued meat, baby. Yes, dame la carne. And I know that's a double meaning. And for all the Spanish speakers out there, you're going to laugh at me and make fun. But yeah, dame la carne. Not in a can. I have a few kinds close to Murfreesboro. Oh, well, I'm in Murfreesboro. I've had good mead brewed locally. Raven Moon Hearth does some good locally brewed mead. Again, the Ravenwood Meadery in Huntsville, Alabama is good, and you can get Honey Tree Meadery based out of Nashville, which is, they got a few bottles that have been sold in some liquor stores and some alcoholic beverage establishments in the Middle Tennessee area. So Honey Tree Meadery, Ravenwood Meadery, and if you're looking to get stuff shipped to you, check out Moonjoy Meadery, moonjoymeadery.com, and you can get some good mead from there, as well as Ravenwood. Hello to you, Scalded Works. Yes, Scalded Works can vouch for Ravenwood Meadery. Scalded Works is based out of the North Alabama area, Athens, Alabama, maybe. I could be wrong, but yes, you're definitely present and active in that landscape. So thank you, Scalded Works, Blake, for commenting. And oh, look at that. Tennessee Hendrix says Ravenwood is good as well. Absolutely, and I'm glad to see some love being shared for Ravenwood. For those of you that don't know, Ravenwood and Moonjoy Meadery are both sponsors for this year's Fire on the Mountain retreat, our 4th annual Fire on the Mountain retreat, happening in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Appalachia, USA. And both Moonjoy Meadery and Ravenwood Meadery are top tier, gold tier sponsors for this year's event. So thank you to Ravenwood and thank you to Moonjoy Meaderies for your support, for your craft, for your attention to detail on things. Voodoo Viking says, I wouldn't say by a short mile that my meat is phenomenal by any means, but hey, it tastes good, and it's usually a 16+ percentage of alcohol by volume, and it's great chilled for a hot day. Look, I'm not the type to squander, over an established meadery with a name versus a private, brewer or whatever. I mean, you people out here that are doing it at the grassroots level have a craft and a skill that you're honing. And Voodoo Viking, it sounds like your mead that you have produced and continue to brew sounds amazing. I would love to sample it someday if given the chance. Athens is where Scalded Works resides, and Scalded Works is a local craftsman to the North Alabama area. Craftsman in the sense of musical craft. So Scalded Works here on YouTube. If you guys are watching on multiple platforms, be sure to subscribe to their channel and follow them on their socials, because they are a musician. They play the toggle harp, the drum, and they're serving their community in that degree. So thank you for Scalded Works. Thank you to Scalded Works for being here and watching the live stream, which isn't Ask Me Anything, an AMA sort of thing, Tennessee Hendrix says the best that I can offer, or the best I ever had, was in Norway. 2 mugs and I was on my way. Listen, I gotta say, having never traveled internationally, I have heard many reports back from people who have traveled internationally, have traveled abroad, that the alcohol content in the brews, whether it be wine or beer or alcohol to varying degrees, right, whatever it is, it's like here in America, what we have available in the stores is like child's play. It's like you would give it to your baby almost. And then you go over there, and it's like, the average beer, in Europe is like, a 9% ABV, and that's on the low end. In Tennessee, Hendrix confirmed that they had a Norwegian mead in Norway. 2 mugs in, you're done. And how big are the mugs? Don't know, but I gotta say that they were probably a healthy 16 ounce or above chalice. So yeah, 16% ABV is no joke. It'll get the job done, and it will send you on your way. Voodoo Viking does go mad scientist in the brew room and kitchen. I guess that's what you got to do. When you're in that mindset. When you're brewing alcoholic beverages, it's got to be exciting. It's got to be fun to incorporate, different flavors, different things when it comes to back sweetening or whatever. Get in there and throw some cinnamon or throw some fruit, different types of fruit, whether it's an orange or whether it's an apple or blackberries or just like whatever. It's alchemy, you know what I mean? Like you're in the lab. Hey Dragon Dancer says, I have a want to try and brew some Amanita mead this fall. So I have to venture off into my assumption realm and say that you want to brew mead with a psychedelic mushroom, or a mushroom that has sort of like a psychedelic or hallucinogenic property, because the Amanita strain or genus of mushrooms has some, like there are some Amanita genuses that are very toxic, and there are some that are hallucinogenic. So it sounds to me like you want to be like Odin over here and be like, yeah, drink this mead and F around and find out. I could be wrong, but the only Amanita that I know of are the, like, the fly Ascaric or Amanita strains or genus of mushrooms. So yeah, if you have a want to do that, then be careful with who you welcome in to participate with that strain of mead. So Voodoo Viking wants to go to Scotland. Lerwick up Hilly is awesome. Completely naked women with torched burning a Viking ship. Oh, you went to Scotland and saw that. Yeah. They do that. That's a thing. Torch burning Viking ships in Scotland with naked people. Yeah, welcome to Scotland, right? Yes, pretty much. Yes, Dragon Dancer. Okay, I didn't think I was too far off. I think that was a pretty high level summary of things. And listen, if you were looking for a person to sample the goods, as it were, hi there. Use the psilocybin for back sweetening. I don't know if psilocybin is a sweetener. That's psychoactive. I don't. There's no flavor to that. The brewing process screws up the properties of the mushrooms. Yeah, exactly. Like throw it in after the fact. Because cooking it, the temperatures can definitely make a difference to its, psychoactive effects. But yeah, so I guess using that for the back sweetening, it again, it's not enhancing or adding really to the flavor. It's just adding to the experience. It's to reduce the effects of cooking out any psychoactive components, perhaps. My Norse name's my name's taken says I have 50 grams of Amanita muscaria powder coming in the mail. Woohoo! Wowza! Be careful. I gotta say, in my Christopher Walken, the best Christopher Walken that I can ever say. Just be careful with the Amanita muscaria, my friend. Okay, moving on. Dragon Dancer gathers their own Amanita because it grows rampant in the woods behind the house. You must live in an area where this is prolific. I would think either in the northern European regions or the Northwest Pacific area, because that's where it tends to grow most prolific. Hello, Kingdom of Vinland. Hello, it says Hales Musings. Long time no see. Yeah, a random live stream here tonight. We're talking about mead, which is infused with psychoactive components. We're just randomly talking about this. That seems to be the direction that the conversation is going in. So hail to you, and welcome. Yeah, add the mushies to secondary. Yeah, Dragon Dancer gets it. You guys know. You're craftsmen in your trade. You need more cowbell. Listen, I gotta say, I have a fever, and the only cure to the fever is I need more cowbell. Baby, I need more cowbell. So Voodoo Viking gets it. Kingdom of Vinland says that I've heard that weapons weren't allowed in Freyr's Hofs, which makes me wonder where they kept the weapons when they were in the Hof. That's an interesting comment there, Kingdom of Vinland. Weapons that weren't allowed in Freyr's Hof. So we're talking specifically about a cult, probably. I don't want to assume largely, but again, reading your comment here, we're talking about a cult of Freyr, which was most likely existent in Sweden. Because the Swedes have ties back to the Ynglinga dynasty, or the Yngling dynasty, so that they credit their royal lineage back to Yng, which is another name of Freyr. Freyr being just a title. So if there were Freyr Hofs, this seems very regional. This seems very specific to a local region of Sweden, perhaps. And those people couldn't bring weapons into a Hof or a temple dedicated to Freyr. I'd be curious to know where the source material is that you're gleaning this from, because I haven't heard it specifically. I don't know everything specifically, but I'm interested to know where your source material is that weapons weren't allowed in Freyr's Hof. So in terms of the question being where would the weapons be kept, I would lean towards, and I would tend to think that if you're talking about entering a sacred space dedicated to a god, right, dedicated to a deity, that any things that were considered antithetical or without that particular deity or that particular god's purview would be kept without. So lay them outside of the Hof, lay them outside of the sacred space, lay them on the ground, put them in a centralized space. It's kind of like in modern times when a lot of heathens enter into their grove or their sacred space, they prohibit the entry of the electronic devices, or they enforce that those people who have electronic devices keep their devices on silent, or they turn them off. Right, if you have to keep them on, you turn them off. Right, we're going into sacred space. We're going into an area that is these items are prohibited. So I would lean to think, and I would deduce that if you're talking about an ancient civilization that has a sacred space dedicated to a god or a deity, that anything prohibited or withheld from that deity should be kept outside of it, and it would likely be just kept in a centralized space, laid outside the Hof, laid outside the temple, whatever. But I'm curious to know where you got that information, Kingdom of Vinland, and if you're willing to share or can find it, let us know. So there's my answer to that. Scaldic Work says, I always wanted to try to make a dragon breath mead. With utilizing what? Scaldic Works, like you're talking about like a dragon's breath, talking about like a spicy mead, like peppers, that sort of thing. Yeah, probably kept the weapons in a churn or whatever at the door with a quartermaster. Yeah, same thing. Like what I was trying to say. Like there was probably somebody that was positioned, or there was a dedicated space, right? If there were people that with, like, you got to think, dedicants, or people that were dedicated to Freyr. This was a an agricultural god, a god of the Vanir. This is not a war god. I don't particularly think that the Swedes, and again, I am not speaking of, from a position of knowing any sort of local regional folklore of the Swedes. I'm just trying to think back on what I know from what sources I'm aware of, that these people would not be particularly warlike. They don't walk around with swords on their belts or axes on their belts. They're not particularly driven to war. So why these people would be coming to a Freyr or a temple dedicated to Freyr with weapons seems a bit, again, antithetical. It doesn't match up with what Freyr is known for in our known sources. But if there were some at the time who would have come, I feel like, again, there would have been a centralized space, somebody who could maintain that these weapons would not be messed with during the ritual. So that's my 2 cents. We always kept guns at the door at school. Yeah, like, there's certain things that just don't belong in certain spaces. You know what I mean? I don't bring bladed weapons into ritual. I don't bring electronics into ritual. Unless the blade, or unless the item that is bladed is particularly dedicated to the deity for which you're performing the ritual. If it's a knife, if it's a sword, if it's something dedicated to a specific deity, that's one thing. But it's a ritual item. It's not your war implement. It's not the thing that you would take other men's, or people's lives with, and then you would carry it into ritual. I feel like if that was a thing, that it would have been kept without ritual space. It would have been kept without sacred space, because you're interacting and you're entering into a space to attempt to interact with the divine, with the sacred. So weapons of war and destruction and things like that would be kept without. Yes, various peppers. All I could think of was Dragon's Breath mead in Skyrim. Listen, I've done I've sampled I think it's a Caribbean thing called Chamba. I know Voodoo Viking is here, and I know they reside in Louisiana, and so maybe what I'm saying rings a bell. But Chamba is like a pepper-infused, like PGA, like Everclear or something like that, where hot peppers are left to infuse in a pure grain alcohol base, so but it's used for like ritual purposes. It's not meant to be like, I mean, you can consume it, you can drink it if you're like a hard ass, if you're just that much of a badass and you want to like drink pepper infused PGA. It doesn't taste very good, but it performs a need within a ritual context, right? Because the hot peppers, and we're talking about like Caribbean region. So like the Scotch bonnets, the habaneros, the things that are indigenous to that area of the world where they're growing, right? Super hot peppers, things that are when you consume them, they can add a euphoric feel to the person consuming them. And then when you add alcohol to it, you know, there's this whole magical aspect of, you know, fire breathing, right? So like you're literally consuming a substance that can induce a fire torch when you spit it out, when you breathe it out, right? So we're talking about fire breathers. And then you've got this super hot pepper, which is also an element of fire, you know, incorporating its aspect into the recipient, you know. So you've got somebody who is consuming the chamba, you know, and getting the effects of the super hot peppers and feeling the euphoric, you know, effects of consuming those super hot peppers with the alcohol, spitting it out. Like it's very ritualesque, right? So Kingdom of Vinland says that I can maybe see them traveling with weapons for defense from hostile humans or wildlife, but leaving the weapons outside the temple or Hof whilst in the temple. Yeah, that makes good practical sense. Again, without knowing any source material or anything like that, that makes good practical sense, because, you know, going long distances and traveling long distances, you would need and want to protect yourself from bandits and the wildlife and things that could potentially do you harm. So upon reaching the destination of the dedicated, you know, holy day or whatever, where you're going to the Hof, the temple, the sacred space, the grove, whatever, yes, I would feel like those weapons, those items would be surrendered at the entry point of that sacred space and left to be monitored and kept by, again, the quartermaster, the Tyler, as it were, like the person who is over the guardianship, you know, of that sacred space, if such a thing existed in those times. Dragon's breath meat is kind of spicy. A friend of mine made it one time. I don't remember the recipe, but City Sitting on YouTube has a video of it. Scarlet Work says so. There's a thing out there. It exists, you know. Voodoo Viking says mostly hoodoo rituals and groups. Yeah, we're talking about the Chamba thing, right? We have a lot of fun on the river and cemeteries in New Orleans with that. Chamba, I've used a locally made version of Chamba with peppers that I grew years ago. I used it for a ritual one year here. It's powerful magic, man. Like it definitely has a place in ritual, especially in the southern regions where these types of things tend to, you know, really make their presences known. Kingdom of Vinland says that I know there's a Skyrim cookbook, which makes me wonder if a dragon's breath mead recipe is in it. I have a Skyrim cookbook, actually, or I have a cookbook that is themed after Skyrim stuff, you know, for a recipe as you know, for various drinks and recipes in the game. Yeah, I think that's a lot of fun, you know, if you can look at like video game or pop culture themed foods and drinks, you know, that's fun stuff. That's good. Again, I have a recipe book, or I have a cookbook that contains some, you know, different recipes themed after, you know, Skyrim and all that. So yeah, I had fun with the Chamba thing, you know, like it was as the facilitator of ritual for that year. Or as the presider of ritual that year, like I was the one leading the ritual, you know, and incorporating that spicy alcoholic substance, you know, like it wasn't, you know, something to be consumed or drank. It was something to be given and incorporated into the ritual. So Um, it was definitely powerful and made for a good ritual. Kingdom of Vinland says also, I think Skyrim skooma is basically fantasy crystal meth. Well, I guess that's a thing. Highly illegal status of skooma. Some innkeepers prepare a sweet alcoholic cordial. Maybe. Like, maybe that's a thing. Skooma is a potion produced from moon sugar. It is a highly addictive narcotic. Hence the association with, crystal meth. Yeah, I guess that's a thing. It could be a thing. Voodoo Viking says, along with Chumba, we also drank a couple of bottles of absinthe each and enjoyed the naked lesbians on Bourbon Street. Well, when we're talking about absinthe, we're talking about stuff that doesn't really reach in its proper form, at least, the United States. So if you've got access to true, authentic absinthe in the French Quarter, which makes absolute perfect sense that of all places, that's where you would have access to it, then you are going to experience things with people who have consumed it, where it's various stages of debauchery and this thing, that, or the other, right? Party Central USA, as it were. So yeah, that's a thing. Gonna take a quick restroom break here for those of you just tuning in and watching. This is a random live chat on Midgard Musings. I'm fielding questions. I'm answering comments. People here tuning in from all quarters of the world, throwing in their 2 cents. We're talking about me. We're talking about psychedelics. We're talking about, mentally, things that mentally change the views and concepts of people when they consume them. And we're joined with multiple live viewers here tonight on a random Tuesday evening. Thank you so much for everybody that is tuning in and watching. Don't forget, if you want to support what I do specifically here on Midgard Musings as a production, my weekly podcast is called Random Heathen Ramblings. The video versions of the show are only available on my Patreon. So it's patreon.com/MidgardMusings. You can join at a $1 tier. $1 gets you access to the video versions of the podcast. You can watch as many versions of the show as you want, all the way back to the first of this year and the end of, the beginning of season 5 and the end of season 4. If you don't want to renew your monthly pledge, you don't have to. You're under no obligation to do so. But this is a great way for you and for everybody that watches these live streams to support what I do. Is just pledge $1 a month on patreon.com/MidgardMusings. All right. So you can do that. It's greatly appreciated. I'm going to take a quick restroom break and come back and answer some comments. So for those of you that are still tuning in and watching this live stream, stick around. We'll be back here shortly. We're going to take a quick, 2 to 3 minute break, get a chance to stretch our legs and think about all of this crazy mead psychedelic wisdom that we're sharing here tonight. I appreciate all of you. I greatly thank you for being here. We'll be back here in just a few minutes. Stretch your legs, and I'll get to your questions here in just a moment. Oh, there we are. I hit the wrong button there. Hail and welcome back, everybody. Thank you for that quick restroom break. Hope you're all doing well. I don't know why I added an H to that. Let me get caught up with some comments here. Dragon Dancer thinks that they need to go to New Orleans again. Yeah, it's one of the few cities they enjoy it. It is magical space down there. Cue the elevator music. Gordon the Skull, it works. Bada bang, bada boom. We cued it. We did it. We did the doggone thing. Baby. All right. My name's Taken says, what gods do you think is easiest to work with? When newcomers ask me about Norse paganism, I point them to the land vitir or land spirits. How do the gods tie into animism? Wow, what a great question. And thank you for asking. My name's Taken. I also kind of approach that type of question in a similar fashion. I want to cultivate, and I want to give people that are coming into heathenry, with a new and a fresh mind. I want to give them the knowledge, or start to give them the knowledge. Right? I want to introduce them to the concept of our connection with the land, with the spirits of the land with whom we share space. So when it comes to the gods, and when it comes to interacting with the divine, this tends to be a thing that a lot of people that are new to heathenry want to focus on. They want to put their focus into the god, divine, sacred modality, right? That what they envision as being sacred, whether it's Odin or Thor or Freya or Freyr and this and that. To answer the question, what gods do I think is easiest to work with? I don't know if I would frame it exactly like that. I think when it comes to the gods of the Norse and Germanic pantheon, Thor, Donar, Thunor, he is the god of the common people, and he tends to garner the most attention with the common folk, largely whom, people like myself and others in our respective areas are most affiliated and associated with, the god of the common people, the god of the middleman, the god of, the middle class, if you want to call it as such. I lean towards Thor when we ask a question of what god is easiest to work with. If we're trying to put into an umbrella term, an umbrella concept, heathenry is not that. Heathenry is not this universal thing. Like, we have to understand, we have to remember that certain people in certain regions venerated gods more so than others. So, so when we go back to like Freyr and the Swedes, obviously the Swedes have an affinity to Freyr because Freyr is a god, Yngve, being a deified personification of their royalty, right? So the dynasty, the royal lineage of the Swedes goes back to Freyr in their mythology, and then Odin tends to be a god, Woden, Wotan, across different Germanic cultures before he makes his presence evident in some of the Scandinavian sources. He is a god of the nobility, of the aristocracy, of the war bands, etc. I think, here in modern times, and if we're talking about, people in North America, I personally have an affinity to Thor, and my tribe has an affinity to Thor. We are Thor's people. We are the people of the Thunderer. We are people of the thundering storm. In our region, in our area of the Mid-South, or of the southern areas, because the storm tends to be very vibrant and very active in our area. So I guess, you know, if I had to, I know that's a more, you know, deep answer to the question my name's taken than what you're asking. What gods do you think is easiest to work with? I would uh, lean into Thor, but again, giving into consideration everything that I just said, there's really no universal answer. You know, Thor and his hammer are symbols of fertility. You know, so it kind of it feeds into the animistic nature of what you're talking about. I could go on for days about that, so hopefully that answered your question. Strange days by the door. Sorry, guys, I'm getting caught up on some questions here, or comments rather. When I was there, I stayed in a hotel. Talking about New Orleans, I guess. May have been an asylum and an orphanage at various times. Very interesting experience. Yeah, New Orleans is a interesting space, man. I've been there many times for work, and it was always very interesting. Kingdom of Vinland says, I wonder how firearms would have changed Viking society and possibly the religion. Firearms changed warfare in societies massively from the way it had been historically. Sure, you know, I mean, had they been given the chance to utilize firearms and percussive weapons and things like that, you know, it was more than just, you know, like they had long range weapons. You know, they had spears, they had bows and arrows and things like that, catapults or whatever. The primitive warfare at the time, medieval warfare at the time. But I mean, firearms changed warfare for many cultures, even Asiatic cultures. I mean, and American too. You know, like you get into like the Revolutionary War. I mean, when black powder became accessible, you know, warfare was beyond just you know, that's when we start seeing guerrilla warfare. You know what I mean? It was more than just what you could see face to face. There was a long distance dynamic that became part of warfare with the inclusion of firearms. And sure, had you know, the Scandinavians and the Norse people during the Viking Age been you know, exposed to firearms at the time, then yeah, it would definitely have shaped and molded into a different dynamic for sure. Voodoo Viking says just use it as rednecks with guns plus mead. So not much different, but it may have held off the Christians. I mean, it's hard to say. Like we're talking about, you know, primitive cultures, you know, being, you know, exposed to and having been given pretty advanced technology for what it was at the time. You know, you're talking about firearms. I mean, to put it into relative terms, like, yeah, I guess you could say, you know, rednecks with guns, you know, and they're a bunch of, you know, just a bunch of drunk asses, you know, shooting and whatever. You know, who's to say? You know, who's to say that that's what the society was like? Who's to say that that's how the people were like? That they were, you know, I don't think that the consumption and the availability of alcoholic beverages was so readily available that, you know, people were just you know, staying drunk off their asses. That's not conducive to a functioning society. You have a bunch of drunk asses, you know, in your tribe, in your society, that aren't doing anything. That doesn't make good logical sense. That's not what a functioning society needs. Did it happen? Yeah, sure, but it's not, you know, it'd be like our modern military, you know, being just, you know, drunk and reckless, you know, and they've been given these high powered weapons and having no formal training. Like, I don't know, like maybe I'm spitballing here, just thinking about comparisons to modern time versus ancient times, but I don't think that would have made good logical tactical sense to have a group of people, accessing alcohol that would inhibit their minds, their cognitive abilities, and then just give them a bunch of weapons to deal with. Yeah, sure. It would have messed with the Christians. It would have messed with people's minds that they were going to infiltrate and this and that. But I don't think that was a fair thought in people's minds. Like, yeah, let's just get fucked up and ruin their lives. Loki is not a newbie's god. Do not advise him, says Voodoo Viking. I tend to agree. I wonder if tomatoes could be associated with giants of wind. Oh, wait, tornadoes. Sorry, I said tomatoes. What the hell did I say? Tomatoes. Sorry, Kane of Finland. I wondered if tornadoes could be associated with giants of wind. In what context do you think that giants of wind were ever understood or believed to be a thing in Germanic, Scandinavian sources? Again, I go back to the fact that the storms of America, right? We have obviously tornadoes that only exist in certain areas of the country in North America that I am aware of. Randomly and very sporadically do tornadoes appear in places above the Mason-Dixon line. Okay, so for those that may be watching or listening and catch this later, right below the Mason-Dixon line, we're talking about a very specific region of the United States, the North American continent, but in the United States specifically, right, the lower 48. Tornadoes don't typically exist above a certain region. Giants of wind, I don't think that's a thing. That doesn't ring a bell to me in any sort of Northern European, Scandinavian, or Germanic sources. It doesn't exist. If we want to correlate the storm of the tornado to anything, I think that for a lot of contemporary and modern heathens, this type of storm could be something along the lines of the Wild Hunt, right? This destructive, this absolute death taker of storms, where Odin's host is riding and that sort of thing. So I can speak to that because I live in an area where tornadoes happen and they do pop up very frequently. And so for us here in the South, where I am not native to the South. I am a Northman. I am from New York. I was born and raised in the North, but here in the South, when the tornadoes come through, I particularly see this as the when they happen very prolifically, when they happen very often. It's happening in these sort of like winter to spring type months, and they are, I see personally, the storm of the tornado, that type of cyclical destructive nature, as being a external force of Odin's host, of the Wild Hunt. Personal UPG, okay? Not trying to put the tornado associated with anything Norse, Germanic, heathen, whatever. This is just my personal UPG. So, the giants of wind, I don't know what that means. Like giants of wind, it doesn't track with me personally. Maybe it does for somebody else. So it's worth considering, and it's worth maybe tossing around an idea for those that live in other areas that associate this storm with a Jotnar force of destruction, of chaos, of disruption, highly associated with high winds. Scalded Works has to go now. Great sitting here chatting. We'll speak to you later. Thank you, Scalded Works, for being here. Voodoo Viking says drunkenness was not tolerated in any culture up until recently. Mead at the time was a rare thing that only happened during certain times, and it was accompanied with a drinking ritual. And even then, as he says, you couldn't get blackout drunk. So no, the ancestors wouldn't have been drunk all the time. Weren't trying to insinuate that. It was just half joking. Yeah, no, and that's a good point. You know what I mean? Like, guys, when we talk about like the strength of alcohol that existed, brewing your own alcoholic beverages and fermenting or distilling or anything like that, like it took a while to get your brew, whether it was ale or whether it was mead, up to an alcoholic content that would be to what it is today. I think. You know, we have historical references of, especially at Yule, right? When Yule would last for 3 nights, or until the mead was gone, until the ale was gone, right? Like until all of the libation was consumed. And I have to deduce that, in those times, in medieval times, if you have a great big population of people, certainly, no matter how well you were the brewer, at the time, like there was no way that you were getting 50, 100 people drunk off their asses, over 3 days. I don't think that. I think that the alcoholic content of stuff was probably way lower than what it is right now. That's speculation. I have nothing to base that off of, back that up with. So that's just my whole thing. Kingdom of Vinland says, what part of New York am I from? Currently living in upstate New York near the Finger Lakes, although I'm not a native of the state. Born in Dallas, Texas. Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, I was born and raised on Long Island. I was, so if people don't know, the shape of Long Island looks like a fish. Okay. And the fish shape, I was born basically, if you look at Long Island as like these two fins, the North Shore and the South Shore, out here, go up into like the main continental places of New York. I was born and raised right in the crotch of the fish. So Suffolk County, Riverhead, New York is my homeland. I'm a marsh baby. I'm north and in the marsh, very similar to my Dutch ancestors. Okay. The Netherlands at the time was a very marsh, and still is today, a very marshy, swampy land. So I was born and raised in Riverhead, New York, and then my family moved when I was a young teenager up to the Hudson Valley region. So a lot of folks from the southern parts of New York, when they think upstate New York, they think like Syracuse and Albany and Rochester and stuff, right? We weren't that far up, right? We were in Orange County, the lower Hudson Valley area. So I was in the lower Hudson Valley area of New York up until I was in my very early 20s. And then that is when I moved from New York to the South. So that's a little bit about me and what part of New York I'm from. So, the whole Rumpelstiltskin, Catskills, right? I grew up basically off of Long Island, but in the lower foothills of the Catskill mountain range, right? So all like the folklore of Rumpelstiltskin and all that, like I've been up and around those areas. So Voodoo Viking says, made a natural mead, and it takes a long time to brew, like a year, which is a very long time for a mead. Actually, you can get drinkable mead, tasty drinkable mead, within between 3 to 6 months. So it was only like a 5% volume max, super sweet, not very strong to comparison, but what you can do with modern yeasts. Yeah, I think that was probably more like what the Scandinavians, the Norse people, like they were probably working with stuff that was between a 5 to 10% ABV. I don't know. Like if I could, if I had to put money on it, I would think that was probably within the wheelhouse of what they were working with. Um, Kingdom of Inland says, I've noticed a deep divide between upstate and NYC areas, but that's getting into politics, which is messy. Yeah, like yeah, New York is messy as hell, dude. Like, give me a break. Like, that's the one thing about, you know, living in the South and being from the North, New York specifically, that I don't miss is just how messy it is with people. I love the landscape, but in terms of um, you know, the whole politics thing, like I don't get into it. And what's funny, you know, is that as a native New Yorker, as a native Northman, okay, and I will comfortably say that I am a Northman because I was born in the North. I was born in New York, and that is what anybody in the world, no matter where you're from, would say is that's the North. You know, I've lived through harsh winters. I've seen, you know, 8-month long. Well, maybe not long. Let's say November, December, January, 6-month long winters. You know what I'm saying? That's the North to me, where, you know, you'd get snow and then you wouldn't see thaw for 6 months. There's parts of me that miss that area. There's parts of me that miss the landscape, but I've traveled back there in recent times for different reasons, right? And I don't feel home is there. Why? Because I've established roots and I've set up home in the South. And what's also interesting is that you know, I lived in that portion of the world, in that portion of the country for X amount of years, and then I moved to the South, where I've been living, you know, in various portions and in various places of the South, and then you know, I've been in the South for almost as long, years wise, like you know, almost as many years as I was in the North, like from where I was born and raised. So that's wild. That's crazy for me to be in a place in my life where I'm, you know, living in a place that I'm not from for almost as long as the place where I am from. You know, home is where you make it. Um, I've talked very randomly. I've talked in the past about what gets referred to sometimes as the gravity well. Um, Hiraeth is a Welsh term that has been mentioned before, I think, in various circles about that pull, that you know, thing that you feel that pulls you back towards your home. That's that sort of homesickness. And you know, Hiraeth, that homesickness for me for the longest was, you know, tied to where I was born, you know, where I experienced much of my formative years growing up as a child into my youth, into a young man, and this and that. And you know, moving to the South and establishing roots in the South, again recently, having gone back up, you know, to New York where I'm from, I stayed there for days, and I did not feel that Hiraeth. I did not feel that homesickness. I didn't feel like, you know, in the past I would feel like I, you know, don't want to leave. It's sad, you know, I'm torn to leave. And here recently, I didn't feel that. I felt more at home where I have established roots myself. It wasn't the roots that were established for me, it was the roots that I've established for myself. You know, if that makes any sense. And dude, it's taken like 20 plus years, man. It's taken that long. Well, close to 20 years, because I've lived in Tennessee since I moved from New York permanently. I've lived in Tennessee in the state for almost 20 years. You know, and I lived in New York for over 20 years. So I'm basically at the point where it's you know, a split difference, where you know, the time that I spent living where I'm from versus the time that I've spent living where I went to. What a wild thing to experience. You know, what a wild thing to feel that you know, life is spread across regions, across miles, across many miles. You know, like, we're not talking like, oh, I just moved out of this city to that city. Like, we're talking about, you know, thousands, tens of thousands of miles. Maybe not tens of thousands, but yeah, literally thousands of miles. You know, so you know, I've talked a lot about how heathens you know, associate with the landscape, with the spirits of the land, you know, and connecting with those spirits. And you know, your guys are here talking and listening to somebody who's, you know, 20 years separated from the space that they grew up with. Those spirits, that land is I've not been able to feed into that. I've not been able to connect with that. I've not been able to find that connection with that spirit in a very long time. And even going back to that space over recent years has left me a bit deprived. You know, and it makes you reevaluate. It makes you think, like, well, where is my home then? Like, a lot of heathens, I think, are wondering that. You know, where am I connected to? Who am I connected with? Is the landscape a thing that I'm tied to? Is, you know, our modern world, our modern perception of the world is so vastly separated from an ancient construct of the world, is what we like to lean back into and like to look at, you know. So home is where you make it. You know, home is where you set up your roots. Home is where you establish that home. Kingdom of Inland says that, you know, something interesting I found is that, you know, Alaskan honey is produced from wildflowers, which make me wonder if mead using that honey would taste different from the mead made with honey from bees. I mean, it's all made from bees, I guess. It's just a matter of the local flora and fauna, you know, right? Everything that the bees locally are feeding on and pollinating with. Like, it's Alaskan mead is going to taste different than Tennessee in mead, or Louisiana mead, or, you know, Washington mead, or whatever. It's you know, those creatures, those pollinators are going to be present in the production of the thing that you need to make your mead. And those are spirit. That is spirit. Like, that the spirit of the bee in your area is going to incorporate its essence into the product that you use to produce your mead. So yes, I feel like it will definitely taste different. You know, there's fruits and flowers and everything that Alaskan bees are pollinating with that are different because of indigenous space. You know, gotta go, Voodoo Viking. Talk to you later. Good hearing from everyone. Good hearing from you too, and good hearing from everybody. If you're tuning in just now, you know, we've been going for probably about an hour and 15 minutes of a live stream, and I appreciate everyone's inclusion and talking about things. It's an open Q&A. here to answer any questions. We're talking about mead, we're talking about, being associated with different areas of the country, areas of the world. Good stuff, right? Stuff that I like talking about. And, of course, for those that are just tuning in, you can go back and listen and watch, this episode for, I say episode, but this live stream for anything that you may have missed along the way. So, if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them down below. Otherwise, it's been going for almost an hour and a half now, so we'll probably wrap it up here soon. I know we have Voodoo Viking that just dropped, Kingdom of Inland's here, commenting about mead along the way. Scarlet Works was here before. They had to drop. We had Dragon Dancer on YouTube. A lot of YouTube viewers, not so many people on the YouTube or on the Facebook platform, which is alarming because I figured that most of my viewership is on Facebook, but that's okay. We had Oscar Garcia Cervantes on Facebook before. Yeah, all good, man. All good, folks. So, we got Taylor registered there on Facebook. Hail and hello to you, Taylor. Taylor is a Acer tier patron on Patreon, so thank you very much, Taylor, for just popping in and saying hi. We're talking about various things of all sorts of, subject matter, mainly about mead and regional practices and whatnot. Dragon Dancer on YouTube is saying that Facebook glitches out if I try to watch me there. Wow, that's crazy. I'm sorry for that, but I'm glad that you're here on the YouTube platform listening and watching, because I do stream on both platforms equally, so I try not to be what the tool that I use deems as where the content gets distributed is beyond me. I do the best that I can. But yeah, we're here. We're doing the thing on a Tuesday night of all things. You folks got here. You got work, I'm sure, this week. So in consideration of everyone's time and being respectful of that, I know it's late for the folks that that maybe listen or watch this on the East Coast. It's almost 10:30, or it is 10:30. So I do want to be respectful, and I want to get everybody back to their time. And thank you so very much for everybody that has tuned in and watched and commented and shared your thoughts and given me things to answer about during this AMA. My name's taken on YouTube. Says this is my first time participating in the YouTube live chat. Very insightful. Had a lot of fun. Love the channel. Thank you so much. My name's taken, and I'm glad that you had a good time and that you found value in this. Thank you for being here and offering your thoughts and comments as well. My name's taken on YouTube. Dragon Dancer on YouTube. These are always great. Thank you so very much. Taylor Register on Facebook. Voodoo Viking on YouTube. And everybody who I may have not mentioned already thus far, thank you so very much for your constant and ongoing support. As a reminder, if you want to support what I do on a long-term basis without catching these live streams, you can do so by becoming a patron on Patreon for just $1. It's a $1 pledge. You get you video access to my weekly podcasts, which air every Thursday at 8 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Pacific, or 9 a.m. Eastern. And you're under no obligation to continue your $1 a month pledge. I know it's just $1. It's not a cash grab. It's just gives me the thing that I need to keep the production of this podcast going. So it's $1. It gets you access to the video versions of the show. You're under no obligation to continue it every month. But if you want to, you can check it out. Also, check the description link, the Linktree link that's in the description of this video. It points you to all of my socials. So, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Patreon, all of it. Merchandise, which, by the way, if you are wanting to get merchandise now until the beginning of October, all of my merchandise is 25% off if you use the promo code FOTM24. So if you go to Linktree, if you go to my Linktree link, or if you just go to my MidgardMusingStore.com, all of my branded merchandise, everything that you can find online. There should be a banner up at the top that says, use promo code FOTM24 at checkout. It gets you a 25% discount. You get branded merchandise, and you're also helping support the men's retreat, Fire in the Mountain, this year. So yeah, check all that stuff out. It's there for you to enjoy and participate in. Thank you so very much for everybody that's been here this evening and willing to talk and engage. I greatly appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next one. I don't know when I'll do another one of these. This week's episode of the Random Heathen Ramblings podcast is going to be airing this Thursday at 8 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Eastern. I will be in Panama City Beach, Florida this week. Looking very much forward to that. So I will see you guys around here and there. So thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it. Till we talk to each other again, may the gods continue to notice you, and may your ancestors smile upon you. And we'll see you in the next one.